Yobuseo, my name's Pam, and we are back with my old Undertale fanfiction called An Open World, where we'll be covering chapters 3 and 4 today. So, they're a little long, I believe, so get some protective gear, a hazmat suit if you seem to need that sort of thing, or just get a blanket and some popcorn and a drink, and we'll get started. Chapter 3 is called The Void. When we arrived, I realized this was where I first woke up.
Well, we're here.
Sans said. Where are we? I asked.
We're what the anomaly calls the Void. This is the empty space that divides the alternate timelines and universes, Sans responded. And since there is no universe or timeline that exists here, time doesn't really exist here either, making it a perfect place for you to train in literally no time at all.
Sans sat on the floor in front of me, waiting to see if something would happen. I sat down on the floor with my legs crossed and closed my eyes, beginning to concentrate on the floor beneath me and thinking about how to separate myself from it. I quickly got distracted and started thinking about outer space and how astronauts float because there's no gravity. I centered on this thought, thinking how fascinating this simple thought was, thinking about how much fun it would be to be an astronaut floating in space. This thought escaped my mind when I heard Sans screaming.
Lexi, can you do something for me?
What? I said.
Whatever you do, don't look down,
he exclaimed. I opened my eyes and quickly disobeyed and looked down to see that I was about 30 feet off the ground. Huh. Focusing on that stupid thought actually worked, I thought to myself. I concentrated on descending to the ground, and just like in space, I slowly lowered myself to the ground. Once I had done so, I jumped up again and slowly coming back down. It was a blast. I continued jumping over and over, doing flips and spins during my prolonged descent.
Alright, kid, stop floating around. Just because time doesn't move in this void doesn't mean I don't feel like time is moving forward, Sans asserted. You still need to figure out the more important part, your ice magic.
I jumped back over to where Sans was. I sat on the floor again and Sans did the same. How do you do it, Sans? I asked. The magic, I mean.
Be honest with you, kid. I can't really remember. I've been using it for so long, it's kinda just comes to me whenever I need it to. Well, I guess it's kinda like a feeling. It's not always there, but when it is, it just takes over every other feeling that you have in that moment. It's so easy to lose yourself in this feeling and never think about the pain you may cause on others. But in my situation, it never really matters how I feel. It doesn't matter how much I hurt them, it just matters that I do. Fighting Kara isn't easy, and I'm not even sure if killing is even the point. You just have to have that hope that maybe one day they'll quit. They'll move on from this reality and start over. That way everyone's pain will be gone. As long as everyone else is happy, I'll keep pushing forward. Not like I'll die anytime soon. At least not permanently anyway. I'm sorry, just try to find the feeling you had when you made that sphere.
I could see the despair in Sans' eyes. I knew that I could never understand how he felt, so I kept whatever thoughts I had to myself. I tried to do what he said. I attempted to remember how I felt when I made the sphere. I figured it was a feeling of hope, and what I used the magic was going towards the well-being of myself and others, but also have a feeling of dread that I could fail. I centered my focus on this feeling and thought of what to make. I quickly came up with something easy, an ice cube. I cupped my hands and continued to focus on the feeling, and suddenly little ice crystals came out of my hands and formed the cube of ice I had in my mind. Sans gave me a warm smile.
Alright then, you want some target practice?
I nodded my head and Sans lifted his hand and a series of bones appeared in the form of a bullseye, with the numbers 100 in the center, 75 in the middle, and 25 on the outer rim of the target.
Give it your best shot,
said Sans. Again, I focused on the feeling and thought of an ice shard. The shard formed in the air. I tried to aim it for the center of the target, but it missed the target completely.
Come on, I won't be jealous if you hit that target, Sans sickered.
I made another shard and tried again, and again, and again. I was getting frustrated. Seeing my agitation, Sans decided to make another pun.
Hey, don't sweat it. The ice is already doing that for you. I mean, I'm sure the target will get the point eventually. Just remember, don't let your heart freeze over.
Even though those puns were terrible, they still brought a smile to my face, releasing a majority of my vexations. I took a deep breath and again focused on the target. I thought of a smooth shard and shot it at the target, and finally, I hit the target right in the center. I made a group of shards and again threw them at the target. Not all perfect, but they all hit the target at least. I was overjoyed by my success. Sans smiled, bringing up more targets.
Alright, Lexi, let's see how you do with these.
He waved his hand and the targets that he had made started to circle around me. My ears perked up and my tail stood at its end. As I tried to center my focus on the movement of the targets, I made small icicle bullets and started to shoot them all across the target. And I hit every one.
Bravo! Bravo!
Sans said in a round of applause.
You're gonna bring on the heat. Actually, you're gonna bring on the cold, but it doesn't sound as cool. You ready to go, kid?
I took his hand and off we went to Alphys's lab. Comments about this. It still ticks me that I made Sans kind of assume that I knew what was happening. I still find it really weird, and I don't like it. The other thing is, I knew myself that I was really bad at describing action, and I didn't really want the fighting or training to be like a focus. And since she's never really done it before, I know it would take a really long time to actually get good at it. But I just didn't think it was important enough, or I felt like it wasn't important enough to focus on like that. And there were other things that could be focused on that are more important. Next chapter is A Worthy Foe, so let's just get right into it. We arrived in Hartland in front of Alphys's lab, and boy, it had that name for a reason. The moment we got there, I started to sweat. I took off my jacket and put it on around my waist. It helped a little bit, but not much. I started making snow from my fingertips, but it just added to the mountain of sweat. I quickly decided that my efforts on trying to cool myself was a fruitless task and just gave up. I was kind of upset when I saw Sans perfectly fine wearing his jacket and fuzzy slippers.
Come on, kid. Let's head inside. I suggest you stay behind me in case Undine tries to kill you. Just let me explain everything so that there can be as little conflict as possible.
Sans said. I did what he asked and followed behind him as we entered the sliding door. The door revealed Alphys and Undine arguing. I can't just hide and let that thing kill everyone, Undine exclaimed. If we evacuate now, then no one will have to get hurt. If Asgore absorbs all the human souls we have, he'll be powerful enough to stop whatever that thing is. Alphys stuttered back. Sans and I witnessed this fight go on for a while until Undine turned to the door. I just can't do it, Alphys. I have to stop that thing before it's too... Oh, hi, Sans. Took you long enough. Any news of the human? She looked over my shoulder and stared directly at me. She summoned her spear. Who's that? Sans turned his head and looked back at me. Oh.
Her? Well, this is Lexi. She's a friend of mine and I thought she could help.
I awkwardly waved my hand at her. She put away her spear. Help? I don't need her help. Unless she's gonna help Alphys evacuate everyone, she's not of any importance to me. I was extremely upset, but I listened to Sans and decided not to say anything.
Don't be so selfish, Undine. You can't fight this alone. I know you don't want to admit it, but you're not going to be able to do this by yourself,
Sans said in a tone of concern.
Just because you're the boss around here doesn't mean you always know what's right.
Sans and I both understood that Undine didn't want to hear it, but she quickly accepted it as the truth. Fine. But if she wants to prove herself, then she's gonna have to fight me first. Sans turned back at me.
Do what you have to do, kid, Sans whispered. But if you kill her, the timeline will be shattered, so don't screw up.
The room turned to black, and in front of me was one of the strongest characters in the game. You first, wimp. Let's see what you're made of. Music started to play. I felt like I had a huge lump in my throat. I shot some ice crystals at her, but it melted on the first impact of her due to her incredibly warm armor. You're gonna have to try a little harder than that, Undine shot her spears at me, all being shot in different directions. I made an ice shield and was able to defend myself from the upcoming spears, but the shield broke due to the last arrow and the sharp point of the spear grazed my cheek. Undine smiled. I knew this would be easy. I knew that none of my ice would come close to hurting Undine if the battlefield continued to be this temperature. An ice flurry appeared in the middle of the battlefield and the snow spread across the floor. Undine gave me a look of confusion, as if I completely wasted my turn. Once again, spears started advancing toward me. I jumped and floated to completely avoided them. Why didn't I think of this earlier, I thought to myself, but the spears started to follow me upward. Undine laughed. You think you're the only one with tricks up their sleeves? I swam through the air as the spears approached me, and one of them pierced through my right calf. I immediately fell to the ground, screaming in pain. I was sitting on the floor as Undine stared down at me. One more move, wimp, then you're done, said Undine. I quickly thought of a plan. I laid my hands on the ground. You may be right, but so are you. A path of ice appeared in the snow towards Undine. The ice encased her legs all the way up to her shoulders. She couldn't move. I kept my fists tight, trying my hardest to keep it from cracking. Undine gave me a look of anger and soon defeat. Alright, punk. You've proven yourself. Now get me out of this thing before I freeze to death. I took a deep breath as I relaxed my hands and the ice melted away. The black battlefield dispersed and the surroundings returned. Undine fell to her knees from the lack of warmth, but quickly recovered due to the incredibly hot temperature of the room. Sans and Alphys both ran to Undine to see if she was alright. She pushed them away, slowly getting up. I'm fine! I wish I could say the same, I yelled. Sans walked over to me.
I think you're gonna need more than a bandage for that one. Alphys, you got any special doodads to fix this sort of thing?
Yeah. Let me see what I can find.
Alphys ran up the escalator to find what she was looking for. There were all sorts of odd sounds coming from the upper level of the lab. She returned with a first aid kit. I wasn't sure what would be inside, with this being a monster world and all.
Here we are.
Alphys pulled out a small scanner-like object and started scanning my leg. It took about 15 seconds for the scanner to start beeping.
All done. It will still need stitches, but any internal bleeding or injury should be fixed. Don't worry. I sew my own anime costumes all the time.
Alphys blushed. She took out a needle and some surgical thread and began sewing up my calf. With peroxide, the pain was almost unbearable, but I didn't fuss. When she was done, she put a bandage on my cheek. I got up from the floor and asked, so what's the plan exactly?
Well, the original plan was that I would go kill that thing while Alphys evacuates people just in the slight chance that something went wrong.
But now that we have you, Lexi, that plan has to change. Seeing that you have magic, well, you will be useful in a fight. Undine paused for a moment. So,
I guess the best plan of action is for Lexi to come with me to fight the human. Then Alphys can do her part of the original plan and evacuate everyone to the castle. Sans, I figure you're just gonna do whatever you think is logical.
Sans nodded his head.
Good luck, kid.
And just like that, Sans disappeared into thin air.
Alright, Lexi, let's go. We have a soul to catch.
I was so giddy inside to fight beside Undine, but I was terrified of what the outcome would be. I was just hoping that everything would turn out alright. Firstly, I do want to apologize for Undine's voice. I know that was really bad, and I kept changing it. I will try and fix that for next time because she has a lot of lines in the next chapter. So, I just want to apologize for that. That is going to be it for this. Closing thoughts. I didn't really like this chapter. It's again, it's kind of Undine also assuming that Lexi kind of knows what's going on. I mean, I guess it makes more sense for her than it does for Sans, since Sans is, I come with Sans, and it makes more sense for Undine to assume that I know what's going on that way. Alphys, I thought her mannerisms were kind of weird, especially the thing saying I sew my own anime costumes all the time. I feel like that's a something that she wouldn't just say to someone she just met. So I kind of wince every time I read that. But that is going to be it for this episode of reading my bad Undertale fanfiction. If you liked it, please leave a like or comment down below of what you liked or anything that I can improve on. I always love to see what you guys have to say. Please subscribe if you want to see more of this kind of thing. I post videos every Thursday at noon, so if you want to go have something to watch during lunch, or you just don't have something to watch on a Thursday, then come back and watch some more of my stuff. It's pretty cool. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!